Hello, reporter room investigators. Come on in, come on in. We are going to have a lot of new information in the Bryan Kohberger case today. So, we are going to be talking about the the people that discovered the crime scene. So, who was it? We're going to be talking about Bryan Kohberger's knife searches on Amazon. We're going to be talking about Dylan and Bethany. We're going to be talking about criminal profiler Jim Clemente. We're going to be looking at Papa Rogers inside looking with some updates on that and why I believe that Bryan Kohberger was Papa Roger, and the bizarre behavior of Dylan and Bethany. So according to let's go ahead and get started. My name is Jessica Della Davies. I'm an investigative journalist, and my job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects and share with you how to do the same thing. If you have not subscribed to Reporter Room, please do. Like, share, leave a comment, and let's get started.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
Okay, so let me grab this to start. Okay, so you're like, who is this on the screen? So according to USA Today, and let me show you the receipts on that. And move myself. So according to USA Today, we know that we talked about the text messages already, but the two surviving roommates, Dylan and Bethany, we know that they were frantically texting each other. Now, the victims' roommates, people have been able to attribute a lot to the roommates, and I understand why the text messages are concerning. I do get it. So I want to talk about it with you a little bit. But in the text messages, we know that Dylan's texting, no one's answering to Bethany, and she's mentioning a man wearing something over his head like a ski mask, and she's freaking out. And Bethany's freaking out too. Now, I don't know why they didn't call 911. I do know that the house had repeated calls to it. But I do have some more information on who showed up that day, who to discover the crime scene. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. So please stay with me. So Dylan had said that in a previous statement that sometime after 4 a.m. she had heard what sounded like Kaylee playing with the dog on the third floor, and she said somebody said something like, "There's someone here." And she looked out of her bedroom. She didn't see anything. And then she thought she heard crying from Xana's room and opened this door a second time. And she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay. I'm going to help you." And if this was a perpetrator, this is really diabolical. It really is, because that's not what he's going to do. We know what happens to Xana. So Dylan told police she opened the door a third time and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered his mouth and nose walking past her. She tells the police the masked person walked past her and she stood frozen shock. Now, I've heard a lot of people say, and even I was asking the questions early on, how would you be in frozen shock for 8 hours? But I don't think that's what she was saying. I think she was saying she was in frozen shock. The police, in response to probably the police, said, "Well, how come he didn't see you?" And she said, "Well, I was probably just frozen in shock." She was startled. And, reading through the text messages, you can see how upsetting it is. Yeah, a lot of people are like, "I don't know why she didn't call law enforcement." I don't have an answer for that either. Um, but I do feel like, although she was startled and scared enough that, I don't know. The only thing I can come up with is the fact that they had multiple calls from law enforcement out to the house. So I'm wondering if maybe, she was afraid. Maybe the house was, they were going to get in trouble if they had another law enforcement call or maybe a fine. So she didn't do it. But we know that Bethany Funk told her to run to her room and say, quote, "It's better than being alone." So we know also that Dylan tried to call and text Kaylee and Xana and begged Kaylee to please answer in a text at 4:32 a.m. They still didn't call the police. So prosecutors say that Dylan woke up later that morning and realized she had not heard from her roommates, prompting her to text Kaylee and Maddie asking if they were up at 10:23 a.m. So what I think happened is she and Bethany had both been drinking. I mean, they're going to have to live with the fact that 911 wasn't called. For everybody that's piling on here, they are going to have to live with that. And I wish they had called too, but Dylan was 19 years old. She was literally a teenager when this happened. And I just feel like she already has to live with this. Maybe we can show some grace. Let me know what you think. Sometime later, two of the roommates' friends arrived. So they've been identified as HJ. And I just want to share with you who that is. Okay, so who is HJ? All right, so this is HJ. This is, let me just pause it. This is Hunter. And this is one of Ethan's friends. I just want to show you receipts of why I can. And he also was a fraternity brother. People said, oh, they called the fraternity friends over. My understanding, and I've shared this with you guys in the past, that my understanding is that it wasn't that he was called over to the house by Bethany and Dylan. Maybe I'll be wrong and we'll find out something different. But my understanding is they had plans with Ethan that day, and that he came over with someone else looking for Ethan. And that's why they were there. And they found the crime scene and they called 911. And now this looks like Bethany in the picture. A lot of people have attributed this to Bethany. This is not Bethany. Okay, this is a different girl. She looks similar to Bethany, but it's not Bethany Funk. And this is just, I want to show you my receipts that this is his that this Hunter is friends with Ethan. That's Ethan and Xana in the background here on your right hand corner of your screen. So I just wanted to show you the receipts on that. And then this is also Hunter Johnson with Ethan. So they were frat buddies. They were in the same fraternity, and he came over. He knew Xana, he knew the girls, and he's in multiple video footages of when police were called to the house. So he was at the house. So that's who came over that day. So a man identified also as Evan. Now I don't know who Evan is. I'm still trying to identify with 100% certainty. I don't feel comfortable just pointing somebody out with the name of Evan. I want to confirm, I want this confirmed that this really is before I, show who it is. Now, the call was put in. One of the roommates who was passed out and she was drunk last night. She's not waking up. Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. And then a man identified as Evan tells Bethany and Dylan to talk to the dispatcher who asked about a defibrillator. And at 11:59 a.m., authorities responded to that 911 call. And the dispatcher moved to end the call, and the callers indicated first responders had arrived, and a fourth man can be heard saying, and I'm assuming this is either going to be one of the friends, Evan or Hunter Johnson, or it's going to be law enforcement. I think we have a homicide, according to the very end of the transcript. So I just wanted to share that with you, just to clear that up, and also to tell you who responded to the scene that day, because I do think it's helpful to know, who was there. All right, so let's continue on, and we're going to be talking about Steve Gonzalez's reaction to this. In fact, let's talk about that right now. Let me grab that. And I also want to talk about, actually, let's do this first, because this actually ties in. This is Jim Clement,
prosecutor and a former.
He's a criminal profiler. He, has worked a lot of cases. He's renowned. We're going to listen to him because we're going to be talking about games that sociopaths and psychopaths like to play also later today, if we have time for everything. I think we will. So I am talking about this case in terms of Bryan Kohberger because it's his defense team that's filing the motions, and he's the one on trial. He is innocent until proven guilty. So the investigators probing the case of, of the 4 Idaho students, they sought the records of the Amazon purchases, Apple data, communication, and payments made through PayPal and Venmo in newly released records. So in my opinion, I think that law enforcement is trying to tie not just the search, which I believe they had. The reason Ann Taylor does not want that Amazon search to come in, she, is saying, it's too narrow. And if it was broader, she would be saying it's too broad. But anyway, I digress. She's doing a great job for her client. But I do want to, we're going to talk about Jim Clemente next, but I do want to just talk about that Amazon click history, because the investigators thought what was believed, to be search history, and what they found was concerning. This is according to the search warrant. Police say that they believe BK used a knife to commit the crimes. And although the knife sheath was found underneath and to the side of Maddie, his attorney, Elizabeth Matzoff, is claiming that she works on the same team with Ann Taylor, is claiming that the Amazon evidence, including Bryan Kohberger's click activity, should be banned from the trial because the term is too vague and does not show the full picture. Well, of course they want it banned, because if it's good for the defense team, they want it to come in. If it's bad for the defense team, they want to keep it out. But in a series of search warrant documents, authorities repeatedly requested the payment history methods for an Amazon customer whose identity was redacted. We now know from the defense motion that it was Bryan Kohberger. Now, the warrant also included a request for, quote, all detailed customer click activity pertaining to knives and accessories, as well as a long list of information that could flesh out the customer's full shopping movements and interests on the site, including items saved to the cart, suggestions for future purchases, and items reviewed by that customer. So Ann Taylor's saying that, or her Elizabeth Massoff, who's Ann Taylor's associate, is saying, well, the algorithm made him do it. They were, he was getting lots of suggestions from the algorithm. That's why he clicked on the knife and purchased it. And the defense is arguing that the account could have been used by other household members, but the warrant does detail all account details from the account for 2 very precise timelines. The first timeline is March 20th of 2022 through March 30th of 2022. And the second timeline is November 1st of 2022 through December 6th of 2022. Remember, they can't just go in and search in perpetuity. They have to give the judge some timelines. Now, Dateline NBC reported that Bryan Kohberger bought the K-Bar knife in the spring from Amazon in 2022. The warrant was served in mid-May of 2023, and this was several months after Bryan Kohberger was initially arrested, and just a week before what we learned later was the grand jury that who indicted Bryan Kohberger. So I am going to talk about Dylan and Bethany and their text messages, and we're going to also dig into Jim Clemente. But I just want to dive into this a little bit more with you guys. So the requested data that was received by law enforcement by the beginning of July, inventoried and placed into evidence at the Moscow Police Department, according to the affidavit included in court documents. The defense motion says the Amazon history and click activity, quote, amounts to cherry-picked limited data that does not show a full picture compared to warrants that requested extensive data. Now, in my opinion, if they had gone too broad, then the defense would have said, this is too broad, this search is too broad. It could have been any family member. So, I think their job is to pick apart the evidence, and they're doing a really good job at it. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. But any judge is going to require a specific time frame for a search warrant. Even if you go and you're searching if you get a search warrant to search somebody's house, it doesn't mean you have a right to then go to search their car. If a warrant stipulates to the house, it's to the house. And if the garage is detached, then that needs to be added also. So judges do limit how much a how much searching can be done in a warrant. And they're doing the same thing with the time frame here. Law enforcement had a specific time frame that they were allowed to search within. And I think the judge is not going to grant this defense motion, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. And please, if don't hate the messenger here. I'm just bringing you the information. I'm going to give you my best take on it. And it doesn't mean you can't have your own take on it. This is a critical thinkers channel. And if you like having all of your own information so you can make up your own mind, then you are in the right place. So Bryan Kohberger's team is arguing that the quote states refining of all the Amazon history and Amazon click activity is out of context, incomplete, and unfairly prejudicial, thus making it inadmissible. So in my opinion, they do not want this Amazon search coming in. I think it's because it says purchase twice. I read it to you guys. I'm not going to read the whole motion again from the defense team, but it says it says purchased twice in their own motion. So I don't think this dog is going to hunt with this particular judge in Ada County. And remember, he's the one that gets to decide what the jury sees and what the jury doesn't get to see. I don't get to decide. You don't get to decide. The prosecution does not get to decide. The defense does not get to decide. This is why we have a neutral judge. So the filing also argued, this is the defense filing. Now, some people read this filing and thought because it said this in the filing, that therefore, this is, I'm seeing people stating this as fact. This is the defense motion that we're not going to know what the truth is till we see everything at the trial. So I'm taking everything at this point with a grain of salt, especially after seeing Ann Taylor put a defense motion saying that law enforcement needed to get a search warrant to go to the 1122 King Road house to collect evidence. And saying that, and she also claimed that they shouldn't have been allowed to collect Bryan Kohberger's DNA or anyone's DNA at the scene, at a crime scene. And the judge denied both of those. But she, has to defend her client. That's her job. And we want this to be a fair trial. None of us want to get to the end of this with any doubts, especially since it is a capital case. So the filing, according to the defense team, it says that Amazon used AI algorithms that shaped the user's behavior and actively guide purchasing behavior. So in my opinion, the defense motion can be summed up in just a few words. The algorithm made me do it. The algorithm made me do it. That's the sum, in my opinion, but I don't think we're just going to have to rely on these Amazons, because I want to talk about the Apple, PayPal, Venmo also warrants. So let's dig into that also. So now the accounts identities were redacted, but I suspect that the search warrants for PayPal and Venmo was law enforcement looking to tie him to the knife sheath, Bryan Kohberger, or to something else like the mask. And she said it was like a ski mask type of thing. That's how Dylan described it. So they were looking for other things to see. Now the defense is arguing that this means that the user's browser data and history may not necessarily reflect a deliberate intent, but could have been shaped by the Amazon's algorithm. And then we have also the defense team demanding that two-word phrase bushy eyebrows be banned from the trial. This is after she lost her motion to keep Dylan from being able to testify. And we know that Dylan testified that this intruder, she had described a man with bushy eyebrows. So I don't think the judge is going to grant this motion. I think that Dylan's going to be allowed to testify. Now, Ann Taylor is going to be able to go after Dylan. Dylan was drinking. She didn't call 911 right away. And I don't, or at all. And so, I think Ann Taylor is going to, have some things to push back on with Dylan. So the other terms that they want, that the defense team doesn't want let in, let's listen to Jim Clemente and then we'll talk about that. So let's listen to his take on it. This is Elizabeth Vargas. Let me grab it. Oh. And I did want to show you, let me just show you, this is my receipts on the warrant. This is on the motion, sorry, on the motion from the defense team. I just do want to show you that I didn't just pull this out of thin air. I'm not going to read this whole thing because we already read it in another live stream, but I did want to show you the receipts on that. All right, so this is Elizabeth Vargas with Jim Clemente. Let's listen to Jim Clemente.
FBI special agent and profiler. Jim, great to have you here.
Elizabeth.
What do you make of these text messages between the surviving roommates? They really do explain, and we know that one of them said she'd been out drinking. This was a weekend night. They'd all been out partying and doing things until really, really late, until the early morning hours. It helps shed a little more light on what was going on inside that house.
Sure. It definitely explains the delay in contacting 911 because obviously they were confused. They were afraid, obviously, but there was a lot of chaos going on in that house. There was a lot of disbelief and confusion. And I think they were slowly coming to the belief that something very bad happened. They're putting pieces together. These are
And remember, you go through when you're going through like a grieving process, what is one of the phases? Denial.
basically just kids, and
Yeah.
they've never been in this situation before. They never should have been in this situation.
And one of the roommates said that she had been drinking that night. She described herself as being drunk, and that she wasn't even sure that she had seen what she had seen, or if in fact maybe she had dreamed it. So on top of all, it's 4:30 in the morning. You add in that factor, they're not even sure what they're seeing.
Exactly. They've never experienced this before. They didn't know really what was happening. Of course, you have a guy, they don't know. It's an open house. People come in and out all the time. So they didn't know that this person was definitely an intruder who had very bad intentions.
When this story first emerged, you drew on some of your profiling experience and said that you thought that the killer either had a relationship with one or more people inside the house, or that he'd been stalking somebody in the house.
Right.
Has your analysis changed now that Bryan Kohberger's been arrested and we're learning all these details?
Yeah, I think the information that we have tells me that there was at least pre-attack surveillance, and that is a form of stalking. Basically, this person who committed this crime didn't just do it on a whim. They thought about this for a long time. They actually built up fantasies about how it would go. And in order to actually make the plans, they most likely were in the neighborhood looking at that place, looking at other potential places they could attack. Chose this one based on the situation.
What would make somebody do something like this?
Well, I think the best indicator is basically what his behavior was. I mean, the fact that he left his phone back at his house. He was planning this. His study will give an insight into what he wanted to do. But the fact is, I think he wanted to commit the perfect crime in his mind. And unfortunately, these victims were the just luck of the draw. And it's like I said, it should never have happened. But the fact is that he wanted the notoriety. He wanted to be able to pull off something that he thought nobody else could. He thought he was smarter than everybody else in the world.
What do you make of Kohberger?
So I think that's, really interesting. And I also think that it's interesting that Ann Taylor and the defense team are working overtime to try to suppress the video footage of the Hyundai Elantra traveling to the 1122 King Road house. And I think that this is, her complaint is that it's not continuous. And I think that this argument is ridiculous. I also see people, looking at the image of this coming out. And I just want to say that we have one picture. We haven't seen the video yet. They're like, well, I can't identify the car. Well, Ann Taylor picked the image. This wasn't the prosecution, and it's not the video that's going to be shown to the jury. This is just one picture of it. So I just want to urge caution here that we haven't seen the video yet. So, but the fact that Ann Taylor's complaint is that the video is not continuous, and I suspect that there is something in this video this video that she does not want to come in, that link that clearly shows that it is either Bryan Kohberger driving the car, or clearly shows that it is his Hyundai Elantra. There's something identifying about the car. Now people are looking at the picture and saying, I can't identify anything. Well, no, because Ann Taylor picked one or two shots of the car. You haven't seen the video. I haven't seen the video. So I'm urging caution. Let's wait and see the video. I think the judge is going to allow this in. I think the fact that the video's not continuous from when he drove from Pullman to the house at 1122 King Road is a ridiculous argument, because obviously CCTV camera, they would have had to have had a drone following him, which would have meant that they would have had to have known he was going to commit the crime. But let's finish listening to Jim Clementi. He is the professional here. Come on in, tell me where you're from, and let's talk about this. I have a big show planned. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 packages. So we have a lot to get through.
Kohberger's defense lawyer trying to get the death penalty off the table by saying he has autism. First of all, wouldn't that only come into play in sentencing, not in determination of guilt?
Most likely, absolutely. I think they're trying to say that it's prejudicial somehow, but I think this is similar to them making the statement that he had a privacy interest in the knife sheath and that he had a privacy interest in the DNA of other people. I think they're throwing whatever they can against the wall and seeing what'll stick. This is just a defense tactic, because they know that it's a very, very strong case against their client.
I think so too. And I just wonder, and I, as I shared with you guys, I believe that this autism diagnosis, at first I thought maybe it was from childhood because his mother was reportedly a special needs teacher. But as I'm learning more and more information, my feeling about it at this point, speculation alert, is that I believe that this diagnosis came during the last two years since he was arrested. This is when this, and Pat profiler Pat Brown pointed out, you can find a specialist, you can find a hired gun witness to testify to almost anything that you want to. So I almost feel like if he's not autistic, I almost feel like this is insulting to people who do have autism, because people with autism are no more likely to commit a crime like this than a neurotypical person would. And I think that some of the things that Ann Taylor is citing fit a sociopath or psychopath. And the fact that she's trying to keep the words sociopath and psychopath out of the court tells me that one of her goals is to characterize Bryan Kohberger as having autism, and not allowing the prosecution to then come in and say, no, these same characteristics that you're ascribing to autism fit sociopathic people. The difference between somebody with autism, there's lots of differences, but a big difference between somebody who's sociopathic or psychopath and somebody who has autism is that somebody who has autism, they feel empathy. They've done brain scans on sociopaths and psychopaths and people with autism. People with autism just can't express the empathy that they're feeling, but they feel empathy. And if you want to know that they do, just proof that they do love, they do feel compassion, they just have trouble articulating it, getting the feelings out, expressing it. Watch Love on the Spectrum on Netflix, and you can see for yourself. It's a great show, and it'll give you a really different take. In case I've had some people say, different things, but I'm just wondering if this isn't somewhat insulting. This is, what Pat Brown said too, to people who have autism. I mean, come on now. I do want to say, I'm really sorry to share this. Peter Hyatt, statement analyst Peter Hyatt, did pass away on March 5th. It did get posted today. So I just want to extend my deepest sympathies to Peter Hyatt's loved ones and just say what a great man he was. So let me check in with chat. We have a lot more stuff to get through. I have just a huge show planned. But I also want to talk about how sociopaths and psychopaths in the past have enjoyed playing with media. And this is why I do believe that Papa Rogers and Inside Looking are Bryan Kohberger. And we're going to talk about that next, but let me just check in with chat, and then we're going to finish listening to Jim Clementi on all of this. And let me just say hello. I'm getting behind, and I just want to say hi. This is interactive. I want you guys to come up and talk to me. If you're just watching, come up and talk to me. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Hi, Leslie and Pepper. So tell me what you guys think. Thank you so much for modding today, too. Thank you to all our mods. This is our head mod, Njaz. Thank you for modding, Pepper. Penjab says hello. Hi, Penjam. And Micro Kimmy's here. Thank you for modding today. Samantha's here. Come on in. Brother Mike is our other head mod. Wicked is modding. Thank you, Wicked. Thanks for modding on a Sunday, you guys. Thank you for modding, Tara. Really, really appreciate you guys. Thank you, Leslie. So Rebecca's here, and Kelly is from Dallas. Welcome. Yeah, tell me where you're from, you guys. Where do you hail from? Lenora says hello. Rebecca's here. Yeah, please give this a thumbs up. Let YouTube know we're doing a G-rated show. Kelly is here. Rebecca's here. Oh, we're going to have a great live stream today. We have lots of great people in the house. Sue Joy's here. Hey, Sue Joy. And we're doing, after this, I'm going to do a Sebastian Rogers live stream. And then after that, I'm going to do a live stream on for the channel members. Donna says, do you think there is enough circumstantial evidence if there was no DNA on the sheath? Yes, I do. I do think there's enough circumstantial evidence, even without the DNA. I don't know if they would have caught him without the DNA on the sheath. So I don't know that. But I do think there's enough other circumstantial evidence. I think we're going to find that, Maddie, we know that there was 3 different DNA profiles. Ann Taylor's motion, it sounded like she was upset because they said Maddie was one of the 3, which I thought was, ridiculous. Just another, I know she has to do everything, but it just came across as somewhat ridiculous because, of course, Maddie's DNA is going to be, look where your fingernails are. There, of course it's going to have Maddie's DNA on it. It's part of her body. So, of course, one of the 3. The other one was Kaylee. And then the other one, she's complaining about it statistically. They couldn't match it like they could with the touch DNA on the snap of that knife sheath. But they did come up with some type of ratio where it's more likely to be Bryan Kohberger. Now, we haven't heard the percent yet because the prosecution is not sharing any information on this. So great question, Donna. Mike says, if she didn't know what happened, there's no reason to call for police. Being scared and confused isn't an emergency. They didn't do anything. I just feel really bad. I understand people are like, well, I have to pet my hair to comfort myself. I feel badly. They, just the only thing I just want to say is, when go back to when you were 19, you were living in a group situation. It was a party house. People were in and out. I think she was scared. And what I think is that maybe this wasn't the first time, she got scared. Maybe there were other times where there was, strange men in the house. We don't know yet because we haven't heard from Dylan and Bethany. They have honored the defense team's gag order. They haven't leaked anything to the media. They have, the defense team requested a gag order to protect Bryan Kohberger's right to a fair trial. And Dylan and Bethany have honored that. And I just think we should maybe give them some grace till we can hear from them on the stand. I do, agree that it's concerning that they were texting. But they didn't commit the crime either. So, I feel badly that they were put in this situation to begin with. And who put them in this situation? That's who's ultimately responsible. I understand people being upset that they didn't call 911 sooner, but we don't know if it would have saved lives yet or not. So let's find out first before we, just completely crucify these young women who've survived. Do we want to, I guess my question is, this has got to be really hard to live with. And then to have all the blame being piled on top of them for the last 2+ years. Do we want any more casualties from this? Because, it's like getting to a fever point that, I'm concerned. Kelly says, I wonder, at that point, if they thought maybe it was a friend, or at that point unsure, fell asleep, not wanting to get another call logged, right, or a friend in trouble. That's what I'm wondering too. They remember this house was a party house. We've seen the body cam footages, and law enforcement had been out to the house multiple times. And my understanding of the house itself, if they kept getting calls for law enforcement to come out to the house, they were going to get in trouble. I also don't know if it was just that they were drinking. There could have been, they could have, done something that's, that, also impaired them. So they, we know at the very least that, that they were drinking, because Dylan tells us that she tells us through her interviews. And for those people who are like impugning the blaming it all on the roommates, do I wish they would have called 911? Yes, I do. Sooner? Yes, I do. But I just don't think that they woke up from a, falling asleep with these noises and thought all my friends have been done away with. And I don't know why Dylan called her dad. I think we're going to have to wait to hear from her and to hear from him during the trial, but it could have been she called her dad because she didn't want to live there anymore, because she was so scared having a strange man in the house. And again, we don't know if this was the first time that this happened. We do know that this house had multiple party calls. Mike said, being 4 a.m., drunk, underage, noise complaints. They don't want to bring police. They didn't want to bring police. They didn't know yet what even to think was going on. Yeah, please subscribe. It's free, and I cannot get to 40,000 subscribers without your help. Also, we are getting close. We're heading toward 40,000 subscribers. Please give this a thumbs up. Yeah. Hey, crime solvers. Hi, Jeff. Claire, hi. Claire said, do we think Ethan's brother and sister were there? No, they were not there. It was Ethan's friend. And let me show you. This is Hunter, and you can see Ethan and Xana in the background. So you can see, let me back this up. This is, just want to show you. So this is Hunter. This is who showed up with somebody named Evan. And some people have attributed this to being Bethany. No, this is not Bethany. She looks like Bethany, but it's not Bethany. But you can see clearly that it's not Bethany Funk. And there he is with Hunter. So this is Hunter, and there's Ethan and Xana right there. So I hope I've answered your question, Claire. Mike says, if Dylan had confronted him, if Bethany had come up and confronted him, they would be gone too. I agree. I do wish, they could have called 911. That's the big thing people keep coming back to. I understand. I'm not dismissing how you're feeling about that. I understand how you feel, but I'm just urging caution. They were really young, and 19 years old. She's, it's just a teenager. And the girls that she would have been, potentially calling law enforcement on, out to the house for, I do wonder if she called her dad that next day because she wanted to move out. I do think she was scared that night. Hey, Florence. Thank you so much to Mike for the super sticker. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank you. And I'm putting that toward the computer. Thank you so much, NJazz, for gifting a Reporter Room membership. If you got that membership, please let me know who you are so I can welcome you to Reporter Room. And thank you to Rebecca Bruce for the $2 super sticker. That is so nice. Thank you so much. And so let me add back in. I think I have to grab it this way. It says I can add it, but it's not letting me. So let's just add it this way. Let me take this down. Okay. And we're going to listen to Steve Gonzalez also later today, and how he feels about the roommates in light of everything.
Because by the way, if it is Bryan Kohberger, and there's a lot of evidence pointing to Bryan Kohberger, he did a lot of things to try and cover up his crime. This is an indication he knew. It's not like I didn't know what I was doing was wrong. Whoever, if it's him, he knew what he was doing was wrong. He tried to cover it up.
Absolutely right. When you, in a case where you can have an insanity defense, it is a defense that they don't know that what they did, they don't appreciate the fact that it's wrong or against the law. And the fact that you cover something up or hide it at all means that you do appreciate the wrongfulness of your actions. Right. So it wouldn't work. Jim
Clemente, great to see you.
So I think listening to, somebody like Jim Clemente, who's been doing this for a long time, this is, and we're going to listen to what Steve Gonzalez told Bryan Enton next. So let me just go through a little bit more information. Let me see. Move myself up. All right, there we go. So, as you know, I believe that Papa Roger, I do think that, this was Bryan Kohberger, in my opinion. I think that the inside looking also was Bryan Kohberger. And the reason that I believe this is we know that people who've committed crimes like this, and I don't think this was meant to be a one-off. I think that we're going to find out that there, may have been other that maybe this was going to happen again if law enforcement hadn't caught him. If he had not left his DNA behind on that knife sheath and DNA under Maddie's fingernails, and we don't know about other people's fingernails yet, if anything, any other DNA was found. The only thing we do know is Ann Taylor said there was no DNA found in the car, but that was early on. We don't know if DNA was caught, found later. She said that, over a year and a half ago. So if BK was Papa Roger and if he was inside looking, I think that this would have been a way for him to feel superior. And we do know that people who are, psychopathic and sociopathic do have a grandiosity. They feel superior to other people. And I think that if he did commit this crime, he's innocent until proven guilty. That reaching out on social media is just a new way to interact. In the past, we've had people like David Berkowitz, who is son of Sam. Now, he sent threatening letters that were published in New York City newspapers while he was doing away with people. We know BTK, Dennis Rader, was also interacting, and that's how he ultimately got caught. He was communicating with the police. He was taunting them. He was interacting with local TV stations. He included a word puzzle in which he planted clues. He posted challenges. He described his crimes. I'm watching my words. And even exonerated 3 dudes who were suspects in his first doing away with somebody. So he was really enjoying the cat and mouse game. And sociopaths and psychopaths do like to play games. So I do think that in light of all of this, I do think that social media is just a new way to interact and to feel that sense of grandiosity and to relive those crimes. And I think that the perpetrator, and now BK is innocent until proven guilty, so I'll just say the perpetrator was enjoying using the accounts Papa Rogers and Inside Looking as being a way to taunt people, to play games with them, to lord it over them that he knew more than them about the crime. So I do think that there was a duping delight in posing as Papa Roger and Inside Looking. And I think on some perverse level, the perpetrator would have enjoyed doing this on social media. And so for that reason, I do believe, and, maybe I will, law enforcement will be able to link him. I do believe that Papa Roger and Inside Looking are more than likely were the perpetrator in this crime. So I do want to listen to what Steve Gonzalez sat down with Bryan Enton. We're going to do that next. Let me just check in with chat, take a few more questions. Top Cat says, "Hey, Top Cat, jury isn't going to buy. Amazon made me purchase it." Yeah, I don't think that the algorithm made me do it is probably going to work for Bryan Kohberger. Sorry, just all the information that comes out. That's why I want to hear from Steve Gonzalez. It is so disturbing. And I'm going to be airing the trial. It's going to be 3 months. I'll be covering other cases also, but I just do think this whole thing is really disturbing. It is just, without a doubt, it is disturbing. Mike said his family is lucky too, in my opinion. Who knows what he was thinking to do? And Jazz agrees with you. Hey, Mace. May said, I'm sure the full picture of Amazon searches is buried within many terabytes of data. I think so too. And I think that that's why they don't want to have the Amazon algorithm made me do it. They are trying to take away every argument that they can think of, in my opinion, the prosecution is, and law enforcement is. And that's why I think are these Venmo, PayPal search warrants. We also have numerous banks and credit cards that I just went over about a week ago during our live stream. I talked about some of those warrants and that I thought that they were trying to link buying some of these items, from the knife to a monkey suit to maybe the ski mask hat that Dylan is describing. So yeah, I agree with you, Mace. Thank you, Ed Jazz. Please leave your DNA on the like button. I like that. Mike says, I wonder what he bought that day at Albertsons. I can't wait to see everything he bought connected to this. I don't know what he purchased, but I think he went down there. I told you guys why I think he went down there. I think he went down there to go to that reservation that's like hundreds and hundreds of acres. The Clearwater River is there. And I think that he would have, disposed of some things there. Maybe buried. I mean, I don't know. They found a shovel in the car, but that also could have been for snow. So I want to be, I don't want to like over exaggerate everything, but it could. We'll find out at the trial. Thank you for modding, Pepper. Lisa says, I wonder if it's sunk into him yet that he is done for. Well, I mean, he still gets to have a jury trial, and Ann Taylor only needs one juror, right? She only needs one juror. So this is not a done deal. I don't want anybody to think this is a done deal. Claire thinks he thought he was so smart, and just says, will be interesting. Killer says, I think it's the beginning. I mean, I think there's a lot more. We always knew we were looking at the tip of the iceberg. And I think when we get to the trial itself, I think our mouths are going to be hanging open as we do learn more and more details. Thank you, Aggie. And Aggie, are you a new channel member? Did you win the channel membership? Thank you so much. Top Cat says, heavy duty cleaning projects purchased probably somewhere. Yeah. Thank you for modding today, you guys. Let me see who else. Claire says he was grandiose, taking his own care, just turning his phone off and thinking he would outsmart everyone. Yeah, Jim Clementi said he thought that he left the phone behind. I don't think he did. I think that he turned it off for the crimes, but I do think he had it on I mean, we know it was picking off those cell towers, and I don't know if there was any geofencing that will track that also, but I don't know if that's even going to be relevant. A lot of people have said, oh, they're going to have the cell phone ping guy come in, and I'm sure there will be an argument of experts, but if they have his car and it's clearly identifiable through either a license plate or him driving it or something like that, where it's just clearly his car, which is why I think Ed Taylor's working so hard to keep that particular video out. That's 1112 video out. I think that, I think that's going to be impossible to overcome. And I don't think that video is going to stay out. I think it's going to come in. And for people who are saying they don't think it's Bryan Kohberger's car, I think we're going to have to wait and see the video before we decide that. But yeah, great point, Claire. Grunge says, trying to come up with a grassy knoll theory. Yep. And Meme says, you're supposed to be free to describe in your own words what you saw. True. Top Cat said, the camera is so far away from him in court, it's hard to tell. Ridiculous by defense. Well, they don't, he was getting called out for, just, being kind of odd. So that's why. Mike says, I think he wore a motorcycle helmet liner. It's a ski mask, but then thin and a stretch like polyester fabric. That makes sense because Dylan said it was, quote, like. She didn't say it was a ski mask. And I would think living in Idaho, you would know if it was. But maybe she was just trying to be precise too. Hi, Olwen. Good to see you. All right, so let's listen to what Steve had on this. Let me take one more comment. Larissa says, there has been nothing said or document that a knife was shipped to his parents' house. Defense. Well, not that we know of. Where it was shipped, I don't know. But I do think what we are going to see is that we know that the knife sheath was purchased on Amazon, and that law enforcement has been able to link it, and even the defense, put in their own motion. So this, that purchase, they use that word twice in the motion. So I don't know where he could have had it shipped to his parents' house. He could have just had it shipped to a PO box that's related to him. We know that law enforcement's pulled all kinds of warrants on payment. So we'll find out more at the trial. Unless Ann Taylor objects to it coming in, we're probably going to have to wait till the trial to find out more. Grudge says, is the prosecution going? Yes, they are. And I believe that that's why this autism got made public when it did. I think that Ann Taylor revealed the records. I think she did reveal the records to the prosecution. That's why they saw the records. We didn't. They were still sealed, but we did. She did have on there autism. We knew that she had unredacted something to the prosecution. I think there was an attempt there to negotiate. What I don't know is if A, Bryan Kohberger didn't want to agree to it, B, the prosecution didn't want to agree to it, or C, one or more of the four families did not want to agree to waive capital punishment in exchange for a plea deal. So then Ann Taylor released, she kept it redacted, but she released the where we could see that she was wanting to have DP waived, capital punishment waived, in exchange, because he's autistic, citing that he has mental problems. And the problem with that is just the way that Idaho law is worded, and whether you are for the capital punishment or not, I'm not here to argue that with you, but I just think that the way that the law is in Idaho, they do have that capital punishment, and they don't have exceptions. And even the two states that she cited, which were Ohio and Kentucky, I believe, theirs are for people that are low IQ, below the normal, like below 70, below maybe even 60. I don't know what their threshold is, but it doesn't say. But autism isn't listed there, so I don't know. But again, she only needs one juror. Those other roommates were involved. I am urging caution. I know some people feel like this. I know people have made an industry out of going after the roommates on this. I'm urging caution with that. You're certainly entitled to your opinion, but if they did something, then why aren't they charged? Why aren't they charged? Their biggest crime, from what I can tell, and it's not a crime, is not calling 911 sooner. And, I do feel badly. I do. And it's been really frustrating to see just, people just feel the thing. Let's listen to Steve Gonzalez, because if he can show the roommates grace, then surely, as his daughter was the one that was done away with, surely then it's not, then surely, right? Let's listen to Brian Enton and Steve Gonzalez.
My wife has said from the very beginning, when hopefully the 911 never came out, and if it did come out, at least she would have, be some prepared. She has a counselor, she has people she could talk to. There's certain things that coping mechanisms. So we'd like for the advocate or somebody to kind of let us know what's going on, rather than nothing personal, but having the media tell you is probably not the same as having somebody that, that you've learned to have a relationship and you trust and you've worked with. So yeah, we're finding out just like everyone else. So it's a bit rough.
It almost makes me wonder if law enforcement didn't know that those things were going to be redacted either. But it is heartbreaking to find out that how the Gonzalez's and the other family members found out about, what took place, more information on the 911 call, how heartbreaking that must have been was through the media. That is upsetting.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. And I remember that you had a meeting with them months ago, and I thought they were going to sort of give you guys a heads up when things were going to be released publicly. And I guess that didn't happen in this case, which is unfortunate. Is there anything, Steve, that I mean, obviously the horror is what stands out to me, but was there anything in the text of the text messages or the call that really struck you?
What struck me is, it's not like Hollywood. It's not a scripted thing. It's not like what you would see on a TV set. That was a raw, emotional breakdown of two girls that were scared for their life. There's part of me that knows that, like how that house was, there's a lot of pranking going on. There's a lot of partying. So there's part of them that was probably thinking, is this a prank? Am I getting messed with? I know for a fact my daughter loved pranking people. So.
Okay, so they had pranks pulled in the past too. I think putting this in context and listening to Steve Gonsalves, if he can show them grace, then can't we?
My heart goes out to those two girls. I'd have a hard time if I was one of their parents to have my daughter put through what they've been put through. I mean, we sat 2.5 years on what? Why did this need to be hidden from the public? Why did these girls have to be dragged through all this? These are the type of things that why I do these interviews and why we push back a little bit, because I think a lot of people are questioning right now why this was hidden.
And I agree. I understand the Ann Taylor and the defense team wanted to have a gag order, but I understand his frustration. A lot of things, these girls have been dragged. They've been dragged. Their reputations have been damaged. My understanding is both of these young women, they're young women now, they're 2 years older than they were at this time, but they both have retained lawyers. I expect, just like we saw in the Shanann Watts recent judgment, I expect we'll see other potential judgments here for having their reputations being impugned. And I guess, my feeling is if Steve Gonsalves understanding and compassion and empathy, they did below. Let's continue on together, shall we?
Yeah, I mean, look, Shannon, it's been years and none of them until now. And
for those of you who don't know who Shannon is, Shannon Gray is Steve Gonsalves' attorney.
And now the judge has said that he wants more of this to be public. But Steve makes a good point. I mean, if this had just come out within the first couple of months, maybe it would have been easier on the survivor and the victims' families like the Gonsalves.
Yeah, I mean, the prosecution's choice in keeping everything under wraps has been a decision that they've made from the get-go. They haven't wavered from it in any way. That being said, I mean, for lack of a better term, I'm just pissed. Common decency should have the Latah County prosecutor's office and the victims' advocates contact myself and the victims' families and let them know some of the stuff that's coming down and is being filed, so they're not just surprised by it, and just have a really just honest conversation with us about it. But none of that happens, and I'm frustrated and I'm pissed for myself and the family that I don't have a chance to explain those things to them, to give them a little bit of a heads up on, hey, these motions are filed this way, and they may or may not be successful. If it is successful, who cares? Doesn't affect the case in some way, or my opinion on whether or not those motions might be filed or might be successful or not. But it's just really, really frustrating. And I know Steve and Christy are frustrated by it, but I'm the one that gets to say, I'm pissed, and I'm pissed for everybody. So.
And I don't understand why a phone call couldn't have been made to the family members or to the attorney to just let them know that this was coming out. I understand their frustration with it. I understand their frustration about the gag order. They were silenced for a long time as well. The family members couldn't speak out. They were included in that gag order.
Yeah, and I mean, even if they can't give you the documents ahead of time, it seems like they could at least give you a heads up to tell the family, hey, maybe don't watch the news for an hour. Give me a second to go through these and call you. And it seems like that would be a sort of a decent thing to do. Steve, what do you make of this latest motion where they're trying to ban words from coming out during trial? I mean, simple words like that are
Okay, trigger warning. If you have little ones in the room, they're going to use
psychopath. Did this come as a surprise, Steve?
Yeah, I thought they'd have a sadistic on there from the profile that I know that they've made of him. Some of the websites that he's been to, that was a one that rated really high with him. So I'm a little surprised they didn't put that word on there. But when you're super desperate, you really have nothing. You know, you attack words and simple things like that. I mean, they're really done. I mean, their client is left so much evidence that they've got to attack.
And if you're watching, please don't use the M word in the chat, please. You'll be filtered out. I will never, and if you leave it in the comment section, I will never see it. People like think I've like deleted their comments or just ignoring them. No, it's because you're caught in a filter. I've never seen, if I don't answer you, it's because you've inadvertently or, with, not meaning to, but you've used a word that's filtered out. And I just haven't seen your comment.
Attack words. So, I guess it's a sign. It's a sign of what's to come, and hopefully, the state, the prosecution, strong enough to see this all the way through and not give in to the desperation that's about to come and the plea deals that they're going to try to negotiate for.
Oh, okay. So I'm just wondering if this is already underway, like the plea deals are already underway. Let me grab this one. Make sure we're all looking at the same thing. Yep. Okay. So we're going to talk about the notoriety. Let me just check in with chat. Let me leave this up. I just love that picture. So that is the one of the last pictures that Kaylee Gonzalez posted. She posted this picture of the Idaho 4 with the roommates in the hours leading up to her being done away with. She posted this that night. So AZ says, sounds like he was wearing a baklava on his head to me. Oh, is that let me look up what that is. Let me look up what that is. I've heard of it. I've not heard it used by that word. Mask. All right, let's show what this is. Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Let me see. I can share this without looking like I'm shopping for one. Nope. Close that. Okay, so you can see that some of them are here. The baklava mask, and you can see now she talked about, and maybe this is why the bushy eyebrows, if it was a thinner mask, and she's talked about like a little something for the mouth, so maybe it was just, really wasn't much. Now I was picturing something more like the with the open, like what you wear under while you were skiing. I was picturing something more like that, where you really could see, eyebrows, and they were prominent. Ann Taylor didn't want the words bushy eyebrows to be let in. She said that Dylan had pictures of people who had bushy eyebrows that she had drawn on her wall. And I'm like, well, who cares? That just means she's an artist and she's aware of facial features. To me, that just makes her a better witness. Because if I was looking at, somebody and all I could see was this little part of their face, I would definitely notice the eyebrows. I mean, you can see this guy clearly has what I would consider bushy eyebrows. And if you look here, this person doesn't. No, not maybe medium, but not severely bushy. So I think the fact she had eyebrows, people with bushy eyebrows, and she drew and was an artist, would, to me, gives her more credibility in being able to describe the eyebrows, because that's really all she could see, right? If this is if it was very creepy, very, very creepy to think about somebody coming into your room like that. Go for it on the forces. If you watch the body cam of him with the women police cop during the traffic stop, he was not looking autistic there. No, he was perfectly able to control. I didn't see rocking. I didn't see any of the things that Ann Taylor is describing. I didn't see him being creepy or being weird. He just looked normal. Let me just pull that up for you guys that are like, what is she talking about? Let me pull that up for you guys. Let me go. So you well, let's look at it, because I agree. I don't think he looks autistic in that. This is why it's so nice to do it interactive with you guys. All right. Okay, so let me share you this with you. Let me grab this one, take this down, and grab this one instead. Let's look and see if you, because I don't think, I'm not seeing any of the behaviors that Ann Taylor is describing in his traffic stop. He looks perfectly fine to me. Great, great point, fair point. All right, let's look at this together.
I was behind you the whole time. Yeah. Yeah. So technically you're not supposed to enter the intersection at all for that reason, because if the light turns red, then you're stuck in the intersection, and then you're on the red light. So that's the reason I stopped you. Do you have your license on you?
Yep. So would you explain that to me a little bit further? So in Pennsylvania, when you're stuck in the intersection, you have to make the left. So what would the appropriate thing for me to have done?
Not
just
proceed into the intersection until you can go, because a lot of people do what you just
I'm just going to back it up. It looks like
that in blocking the intersection. That's technically a ticketable violation, and then you're running a red light, so it's another ticketable offense. So you're not supposed to proceed into the intersection until you can go, because a lot of people do what you just did, right? Is like you're sitting in the intersection waiting, and then turn, then you're blocking. So
with speeding, because someone had stopped. I wasn't sure what they were doing, and then they put on their light to turn. Mm-hmm. So I thought that maybe they were letting me go through. Oh. Did you see that?
No.
I feel like right.
If you look at this camera angle, I think a lot of people would, describe those eyebrows as being, bushy. If all you could see is this, all you can describe is the eyes and the eyebrows. That's really all you can describe. And that was the idea, right? Allegedly, he's innocent until proven guilty. But I don't see any, signs that he's not capable of participating in his own defense. He's certainly able to defend himself here.
Before I made the turn, there was someone who made a right. They didn't have their signal on, so I wasn't sure if they were just waiting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would just advise just don't enter the intersection until you can go, so you don't get stuck. Let's see.
But in that situation, the best thing to do then would be back up.
All right. So the question.
So you got to see his behavior for yourself, and to me he looks fine. So I'm not seeing somebody who's not capable of defending themselves. In my opinion, I think he looks like he's perfectly capable of defending himself. What do you guys think? Oh, before I forget, we're not done. I'm not ending, but I just do want to just say I forgot to do this at the beginning. I just wanted to say thank you to. I don't want to leave this till the very end. And Jazz, Sasha Angel, George Brown Pepper, and Lisa Fazio. And thank you to our channel members. If you would like to become a subscriber, it's free. Just hit the subscribe button. If you would like to become a channel member, hit the join button. We are going to be having a channel member live stream after the Sebastian Rogers live stream, which is right after this. And you're more than welcome to come and join us. We have a really nice group. You also get a check mark next to your name in and get listed just like this in all of my videos and live streams. And also, I just want to do super thanks and coffee gratitude. Thank you so much, you guys, for this. And thank you for your gifted channel memberships. And Jazz has been really generous. She's been gifting memberships almost every time we do a live stream, which is really nice. All right, so let's continue on, guys. Let me take some more comments and questions, and then we have we're going to talk about games. We're talking about sociopaths that they like to play. Let's see. Kelly says he knows what he's doing 100%. No, I want him to say stop it. I want to say to him, stop it. I mean, yeah, to me, he's like seems perfectly capable of being able to defend himself in this situation. He doesn't, come across as not being able to assist in his own defense. He doesn't come across odd or weird. Other people have described him weird. So, I think if he's being and described him as creepy and maybe, like Pat Brown said, maybe it's just that he is creepy. And this autism thing is just, a way to try to get out of capital punishment. What do you guys think? Top Cat says trying to outsmart the cop and get out of the ticket. Longest convo with a woman he's probably ever had. Jody says his brow bone appears more pronounced, therefore his eyebrows appear bushy. Yeah, I agree. Like, if you look at his eyebrows, he has that kind of the eyebrow does come forward a little bit, whereas some people it's smoother up here. So I can see, if all you can see is this, that you would think that they were bushy, especially if she's drawing eyebrows. To me, that didn't make her less credible. It didn't make Dylan less credible that she drew eyebrows. It makes her more credible if she draws people their faces, and that to me, then she's got attention to detail. Levitating Elephant says, really? That's sad. They're probably the same people complaining about victims' families. Go. I hate his I'm from a different place explanation. Oh, on the yeah, he's also told I'm sorry, we glitched out there for a second. We didn't have cross. Glitching out. This is like really bad on the platform's part. A people for his name said there will be no plea deal. This case has a lot more backstory than most can imagine. Ann Taylor knows the burden of proof is on the state. Yeah, she just needs one juror, right? She just needs one juror. I wouldn't send a penny, says Under Your Scar. Claire says, I agree. Sherry Wallace, that's my favorite part, is when he claims to be unaccustomed with crosswalks because he's from Pennsylvania. Autism is a spectrum. Right, exactly. So he's capable. Well, I don't think anybody's even, and the reason we're talking about this is that in Kentucky and Idaho, which is the two states where Ann Taylor's citing case law, autism's not part of it. And then the things that they're talking about are either like schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder or extreme bipolar, where somebody's having hallucinations. So they're getting command hallucinations that's telling them what to do. Or, I could see having compassion if somebody is very low IQ and was maybe manipulated into doing something they wouldn't have normally done. But in this case, there's nobody saying that. Vaughn Dawson agrees with you, Jody. Lisa says, I would in no way think he was a K by this stuff. No. And most of them seem like really nice people. I mean, if you think about BTK, a deacon at his church. People always say when they catch people that have committed crimes, doing away with people, they're always shocked. They can't believe it was that person. You, you know, Jody Area, Travis Alexander. I don't see people attacking his roommates. And he lay on that bathroom floor, not for hours, for days, multiple days, plural, until his friends stopped by looking for him. But we know that the roommates didn't do it. It was Jodi Arias because she caught herself on camera doing that crime. But she seemed really nice. She went to his funeral and cried. And your discussed is how many autistic people have committed a crime like this? No more than normal. I don't want to say normal because they're not abnormal. I would say no more than neurotypical. So I don't want to. So I want to say neurotypical, not normal versus abnormal, because it's just an inability to to express and also read other people's expressions. So, but they do, when they did brain scans of people with autism, they found that they were not like sociopaths and psychopaths at all. So I guess my question is, did this expert who's going to take the stand and claim that Bryan Kohberger shouldn't face capital punishment because he has autism, did this person do a brain scan on him? Was there any, because it's a neuropsychologist, so I'm assuming there would have been a brain scan that would show that he had empathy, but just couldn't express it. Because that's what it shows for people who are autistic. But if he's just claiming this and he's not, it really is insulting to people who actually have autism. And if he's coming across creepy, I don't think it's because he's autistic. I think it's because, allegedly, if he did do these crimes, then maybe he does have a creep vibe. I mean, I don't know. He seems to be able to conduct himself just fine on this. He talked his way out of a ticket. He lied his way out of a ticket. He said they didn't have crosswalks in Pennsylvania. Sherry says, yeah, there aren't any crosswalks in Pennsylvania. That's what he claimed. And I did a video and showed there was crosswalks. AZ says, but the burden of defense is on the defendant. No, the burden is on the prosecution. Bushi said, I went to the beginning, watched a 2.0 speed, tried to catch up. Oh, thank you, Bushi. Welcome. Jody said he's intelligent, in my opinion. Yeah, I think he's intelligent too. I think he's perfectly capable of aiding in his own defense. He sat through numerous hearings. He wasn't, making strange outcries or whatever, but his demeanor and body language, he, does look predatory. He's got, his mouth tight and his eyes darting around. It does look creepy to people. But, like profiler Pat Brown said, maybe it's just because he is creepy. Leslie, thank you, Leslie. Hey, Holly, glad you're here. Thank you for modding today. Under Your Scars says 100%. Autism is a spectrum. You're right. Claire says, how did he drive from Pennsylvania to Washington without ever seeing a crosswalk? Well, I mean, they have crosswalks. He went to DeSales University. It was just, he wasn't telling the truth. And he was able to lie with a perfectly straight face on that too. He lied. He, didn't blink. He didn't, do any of the tells for lying. He, seemed believable. But great point, Claire. Jody said, back with BK, we didn't have the technology and cameras. BTK, I think, yeah. I think this person would have continued. Yeah, if we didn't have technology and cameras and we didn't have DNA, I think he would have got away with it. If he wouldn't have left that knife sheath behind with his DNA on it, he might have gotten away with it. I don't know for sure because we don't know what else the prosecution has. But we're finding out that they have a lot more than what we ever knew that they had. Mike said, imagine him buzzed at the bar, probably says creepy stuff. That's why they booted him. And he's talking about the 7 sirens. Let me pull that up because some people don't know what you're talking about. So let me pull that up. See if this. I don't know if New York Post will let me do this one or not. Yep. Okay, good. Make sure I'm not in the way. Nope. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, and he got kicked out of high school also for, having issues with women. So, and then, yeah, he would have driven that Hyundai Elantra from Albrightsville to Pullman, Washington. But he never encountered a crosswalk, you guys. So, but that line doesn't make somebody, necessarily mean that they did the crime. But I think there's a lot of other things. Oh, that's what I thought. That's what they've been doing lately, which is not letting us share information from their platform because they want ad revenue. They want to put cookies in that can track you. Okay, so let's see. He was accused of making inappropriate comments to female staff and patrons at the Seven Sirens Brewing Company in Pennsylvania, where he grew up, just months before moving to Pullman, Washington in August of 2022 for school. After moving to Pennsylvania, he enrolled in the doctorate program in criminology. In a new Dateline NBC episode, a female WSU student he befriended alleged, if you haven't heard about this, let me know, that he broke into her home months before the University of Idaho. What happened is that somebody went into her house and moved things around, and he was tending and befriending her, but didn't steal anything. And he's on the phone. He offers to install a security system into her house, and this is a friend of his from WSU that he befriended. And he installed the security camera, including cameras on the inside, and then allegedly used those cameras to spy on her. So this is per NBC News in Dateline. After the incident, it was apparent that someone had touched her stuff, but nothing was stolen. It was a ruse, seemed to be designed to scare her. It was to scare her into getting that security system to be put in so he could watch her, allegedly, according to her. So he also was terminated from his own high school. He was removed from the high school program with an unsettling pattern toward females. And then we have, after he was arrested, the Seven Sirens Brewing Company owner Jordan Searleneck spoke to NBC News about notes in BK's ID-linked customer record. So they kept like a little record of every customer that came in, maybe what their likes and dislikes of what they liked. But in this case, it was mentioning his offhanded remarks and disparaging comments directed toward female patrons and service staff. Searleneck said he never personally witnessed anything, but he did confront Bryan Kohberger in one instance regarding those claims, and BK seemed unaware of this issue. So this is, according to the brewery owner, Seven Sirens. And then in the case of the NBC Dateline that included allegations that BK had entered a female WSU student's home, it was unclear that he did at that time. After discovering the home invasion, BK offered to establish a home surveillance system for his friend, to which he may have had success, per News Nation. FBI profiler Greg Cooper said that BK likely orchestrated the situation, quote, so that she would come to him and that he would be able to help her. And what did Dylan hear somebody say to Xana? It's okay. I'm here to help you. I mean, that's like master manipulation, to stage a break-in, tend to befriend someone, and manipulate them into letting you install security cameras that you can then use to watch them. It's another level, this is according to Greg Cooper, the profiler, it's another level of power and domination and control over another person. So peeping Toms aren't as harmless as we thought they were. Further evidence of BK's attitudes towards females emerged while employed as a teaching assistant at WSU. So people want to know what the motive was. It's, you know, it's being an incel, the same thing that motivated Elliot Rogers, which is why I think the handle Papa Rogers was chosen. We still don't know what book it was that page 117 was marked, right? But we'll see at the trial. Further evidence of BK's attitudes toward females emerged while employed as a teaching assistant at WSU, according to anonymous sources that spoke to News Nation. Kohberger reportedly graded females differently than their male colleagues, and incidences of rude behavior and sexist remarks directed at women were recorded in school documents. These incidences contributed to his termination and were even a catalyst for a harassment training seminar. So people had to sit through a seminar. People had to sit through a seminar because of his behavior. He does have a criminal past. The only thing that we know about so far is that he was arrested. And you have to think this wasn't the first time he had done something. His parents probably didn't start off arresting him. But he, stole his sister's iPhone and sold it when he was, having issues with medication. He also experienced substance use in his teenage years. Was he trying to feel something? Once enrolled in college as an undergrad, his substance use reached a point where he withdrew from school and had to go to rehab. Recalling what BK was like in those days, Thomas Arntz, who knew Bryan Kohberger in public school, told the Idaho Statesman he's always wanted to be dominant physically and intellectually. So, to me, this just shows, it's in and of itself doesn't show he's guilty or not guilty, but it shows a pattern of behavior that to me goes toward a motive. This is according to his friend Thomas Arntz. He had to show that he was smarter and bigger than you and tried to put me down and make me feel insecure about myself. So much of that was torment, and I didn't want to be around him anymore. So a lot of people have talked about the fact that they thought that BK was the one being bullied, and maybe that did happen, but he sounds like he gave as good as he got. What do you guys think? Leslie said, I feel like he's creepy after watching him in the pretrial video. Jody says that description of his autism seems pretty accurate, though. Go for it. Fourth Down says he's keeping direct eye contact the whole time. No random jerks or outbreaks. He's relaxed. Yeah. I mean, and he was in a stressful situation with a police officer. He knew how to comport himself to get himself out of the ticket. So I think he can comport himself in a trial. I don't think it's going to, cause him to be unfairly convicted. If he doesn't look like he has any remorse, maybe it's because he's not remorseful. If he looks like he's being creepy, maybe it's just because he's creepy. Kelly said, in my opinion, he's the one for all the suppression. If a tree was, in my opinion, he is the one for all the suppression. If a tree was in the way, they would have tried to suppress. Yeah, I mean, we want it to be a fair trial. Nobody wants this not to be. I mean, this is a capital case. So we all agree that we want this to be a fair trial, right? Holly says, I think the bushy eyebrows would be admitted, and I hope the prosecution shows an old photo. Yeah, because they're going to be a lot, they're more trimmed. They still look thick. Mike says, I think he wants the trial to relive this. And Jess says, can maintain some eye contact. Wicked said, the great birthing hips comment. Yeah, he made that a comment to a woman that he took out on a date. She went a blind date with him. I guess she went in the bathroom and pretended to vomit to get him to leave. She had him back to her room, and he wasn't taking, I guess, the hints to leave. So she pretended to throw up to get him to leave. And then he texted her about what great birthing hips that she had. And I know he wasn't trying to pay her a compliment at that point. He was being mean. He's being unkind. Hi, Jewel. Rebecca says, I just want to let you know you have a great bunch of folks here and a great channel. Thank you so much. Claire says, thinks that was a compliment, like saying you look wonderful tonight. I don't know if he thought it was a compliment. To me, it just seems like it was like a way to be unkind to her. Because she, he probably did realize that she wasn't coming out of the bathroom. Topcat said trying to get the eyebrows excluded is like trying to get a scar or tattooed excluded. Identifying feature. Right. So they don't want us to be able to say, so they don't want the prosecution to say, not us, the prosecution to say sociopath, psychopath. So that to me is a way not to allow the prosecution to say, no, these behaviors are sociopathic. These behaviors are psychopathic, and maybe have a competing witness, a defense expert or prosecution expert to combat the defense expert that's going to take the stand and claim he had autism. Prosecution is probably going to put somebody on the stand that's going to claim he's sociopathic or psychopathic. So to mitigate that, because she can't just keep that witness off the stand, she's trying to say, well, we don't want these words to be allowed. You can't use the M word in a case that where 4 people were done away with. I mean, I don't think the judge is going to agree with that. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Jewel says, why hasn't he had an independent mental health assessment? We don't know if he did or didn't. I mean, he would, I think, you know, if I were the prosecutor and they seriously wanted to plea bargain with me, what I would want to have access to my own independent CT MRI scan and do the empathy test and prove it to me. I wouldn't want to just take somebody else's word for it. So Long Island Hillbilly says Richard Allen under the radar. Yeah, and there was so little transparency in that trial. You know, and it did leave this, you know, a lot of people have questions, you know, because everything was really sealed. I mean, we still don't have the transcripts from that trial. That's ridiculous. Why couldn't, if you don't want to show the trial on TV and you're the judge, okay, but why not at least release the transcript so people can go through them? Why not release what the jury saw? The jury's already done it. They've already ruled he's been sentenced. And it just, you know, it's, you know, left this gap of questions for a lot of people. Claire said he could be autistic. I just don't think it matters. Tara says, my son went to Penn State. They have crosswalks everywhere. Thank you for that, Tara. Jewel says, I read somewhere that Madison spent 1 week at Washington University, but went to Idaho after that. Very interesting. I'll definitely. Lisa said, would love to be a fly on the wall with his conversations with Ann Taylor. Yeah, she sounded almost exasperated. She sounded frustrated, just saying that, you know, he had narrow thinking. And it may just be that she was trying to get him to, maybe the prosecution did offer a plea deal. And maybe he was like, you know, no, I'm not taking it. And that she felt like he was, you know, not thinking clearly, that his thinking was too narrow. Yeah, please subscribe. It's free and it helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. 251 in the room, but only 147 likes. Please hit the thumbs up. Thank you, Mike. Hit the thumbs up and tell me what number you are of thumbs up. Tell me what number you are. Margaret thinks he is creepy. Mike says very manipulative. The Jewel said also he went to the restaurant that Maddie worked at. Yeah, Maddie worked there. Xana worked there. And prior to that, at the Mad Greek, Kaylee also worked there prior to that. So she had worked there for a while, and then, but currently, when they were done away with, Maddie and Xana both worked there. So all 3 of the girls had worked there at some point. Sherry says, I agree. Wonder what this defense he's orchestrating. I don't know. Well, guys, I'm headed over right now to do a Sebastian Rogers live stream. Follow me over there. Please consider subscribing. It's free. It helps. Subscribing is free. It helps me out a lot. And thank you so much for coming by to spend a little bit of time with me. And follow me over. We're going to talk about Sebastian Rogers. I have a really great bunch of information to share with you. And I'll see you over there.